Restaurant reviews are back at the Boston Globe after a pandemic pause and with a whole new 5-star rating system. And one of my favorite local restaurants, and everybody else's too, has the honor of being the first to get a 5 out of 5. That would be Sarma, the universal favorite, as the Globe called it, a small plates restaurant based in out-of-this-world Mediterranean flavors. I'm joined now by the 7-time James Beard-nominated chef and co-owner Cassie Piuma. Cassie, it's great to see you.
Great to see you, Jim. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to eat soon, but I'm going to pretend like I can actually have a conversation while the food's in front of me.
Sure.
So 9 years ago, you were at Oleana. You decided to do this thing.
Yep.
What was your hope or expectation about what this would be?
I think we were just hoping that people would show up, that they would dig it. Small plates weren't really, I don't want to say they weren't as big a deal as they are now. They've kind of like, gone off the radar. But back then it was kind of like still a challenge to get people to understand that, like, we're gonna bomb you with a bunch of plates. You're gonna share them. This isn't like your dish. You're expected to move around and try a lot of flavors. And we were hoping that people would get that.
I never thought until this second, I'm embarrassed. Sarma, does that mean stuff something or other? Is that what I read somewhere? Is that why it's called Sarma?
To wrap or to roll, or it's stuffing.
Close enough.
Close enough, exactly.
So I'm sure you've read this once before. Here's the first paragraph of Deborah First's 5 out of 5 review for you in the Boston Globe. It doesn't matter who it is. A friend of a friend asking for a restaurant recommendation, someone's grandfather, someone's niece, an omnivore, a vegan with food allergies, a credentialed foodie who has eaten everywhere. You know what restaurant I really love, they say? Sarma. So why? I mean, I'm a love of your places, you know.
Like, all right. Well.
Why is there why is it as wildly successful? Is it a lot of good restaurants in town?
There are a lot of good restaurants, and I feel very honored those words, amongst all those great restaurants. I want to say, I'm not sure, but I think that it appeals to people on different levels. For some people, it's, kind of an after work thing. For some people, it's a celebration. The food can get kind of complex, and there's a lot of different ingredients, but there's a lot about it that's very familiar too. And fried chicken and burgers, and we take things that people are comfortable with, and then we kind of twist them a little bit and give them a new name and give them a fun ingredient, and it gets, a bit more exciting.
What am I trying first? What am I doing here?
So this one here, this is an apple, like a roasted apple whipped feta.
Oh.
And it has a brie, which is kind of like a Greek-style, sort of a ratatouille in there, and then some fried pita and pine nuts. And
I make that all the time at
tomato,
home.
honey, raw apples, radishes.
And do you dip this stuff in it?
Yeah.
What is it? Is it like a challah kind of thing?
Exactly. That's a honey nut squash challah.
Oh, my God.
And we usually serve it warm.
Whoops. Well,
Yeah,
okay,
there's
fine.
no ovens around here, but...
Okay, keep talking.
Gyro bread, this is our house bread that we do with za'atar, sesame seeds, and a thyme mixture. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So it's like sweet and salty and spicy and
oh my God. It's
crunchy.
And this, do you do all the baking too in your deal?
So we have an incredible baker, pastry chef. Her name is Tess, and she does every single savory, sweet dough you can imagine under the sun.
It's really good to be doing a TV interview with your mouth full, by the way. Trust me, it's one of the real. So you never closed during the. Did you ever close during the pandemic?
No, we didn't.
And what'd you do?
So yeah, the day the world shut down, the next day we opened for takeout. Like literally, I think it was like 12 hours after we got the call, and we just kind of scrambled and transitioned, and a very small team worked together very closely. I think there were 6 of us total.
Were you scared?
I was, yeah. I mean, I would get home after work and like rip my clothes off at the front door and get naked before I would like come back into the house and give my neighbors a show. So yes, I was very nervous. I was
You're
nervous.
serious, bud, because you have kids.
I'm not kidding.
To make
No,
sure,
I was dead serious. I was very nervous about the safety of my family, but also the people that I work with, and then all the questions: Are we doing the right things? Is this what we should be doing? Are we serving our community properly? But as it turned out, there was a real need, and it did work out.
My recollection was, correct me if I'm wrong, I hope I'm not wrong about this, didn't you add some kind of fee in the early takeout days in an attempt to help people?
Yes.
So we're going to have, your staff was going to have a tough time getting through,
Yep,
right?
we sure did. We added a percentage. We call it like a staff appreciation or fee. A lot of people are doing it these days, but it was a pretty high percentage during the pandemic.
Did you learn anything that is useful to you in what we hope is a post-pandemic restaurant world?
Yeah, I learned many things, but
Like
I think mostly that it's there you are. I mean, I think I've always known that you are nothing without your team, but it is impossible to operate a successful restaurant without each and every person in that restaurant. It is a real struggle to do it. I mean, you can't do it alone, but like the specific and unique talents that everyone has coming together are so important. And we were really missing that during the pandemic, just having our group dynamic.
You know, we had Corby Kummer on the radio with us the other day, Marjorie Egan and I. He's our food guy. I'm sure you know Corby. And we were talking about great restaurants, and that's the good news, how many great restaurants are in town. We're talking about you, in part, and saying the bad news is you can't get in. And then all of a sudden I got a text from a friend who's a big customer of yours, said, what are you talking about? You can always go to the bar at 5 o'clock. Is it as hard to get a restaurant, a reservation, as I think it is, or is it not?
I think the challenge is probably trying to get there at 7 o'clock on a Friday or a Saturday. If you're willing to try any other day that is not Friday or Saturday, you sure can. Yep.
Okay, what's this thing?
So this is our sesame fried chicken. It comes with a tahini remoulade, which has lots of herbs and pickles, and then it's
same deal here.
Yep, this is yours. Yep,
keep
this
talking.
Is yours.
Yeah.
And then on top, it's a spice mixture of dried cilantro and green chilies, and it's a roaming special, something that we offer on a tray. You can't order it off the menu, but you can see it walking around the dining room, and if it finds its way to your table, you say, "Yeah, I want that." They pop it on your table. They mark a little card, and the rest
it's like a dim sum kind of thing,
exactly.
Is it not? I
Yes.
love that kind of deal. But you have just some things are always on your menu, and then you're changing other deals, right?
Yeah, we have a big menu, eclectic menu, around somewhere 35 to 40 items.
Oh, is that good?
The classics stay on, things that have been on for years, and then we change it seasonally.
So you worked for two of the great legendary women in the food, Barbara Lynch at the butcher shop, and then for like a decade before this, with a woman who ended up being your partner along with your husband at Sarma,
Correct,
Anna
yep.
Sortuna, obviously from Oleana. When you started this deal, was it 2013, 9 years ago or
Correct, yeah.
thereabouts? Describe the role of women leading restaurants then as compared to now, where there seems to be an explosion. It really has changed a lot in 10 years, has it not?
Oh, for sure, yeah. I think there was like a much smaller group of women when I was starting out. I mean, most kitchens that I worked in, I found myself to be the only female in the kitchen. So it was really important to have those role models and these women that were, they were fierce and hardworking and intense, but they never made it about being a woman. They were just really the best at what they did. So I really adopted that sort of mentality and just worked hard and tried hard. But now I think there's a lot more women that are coming out.
Are women lead chefs and owners different from men? I mean, we've all watched The Bear. Did you watch The Bear?
Of course.
Of course. Who hasn't watched The Bear?
Yeah.
And by the way, for those who don't know, it's not just about restaurants. It's about the American workplace, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So are men, and he's a screamer, obviously, as we all know, and everybody's screaming at everybody. Are men and women running establishments as a general rule different species in your estimation? No.
I think it depends on I think it's just the person, to be honest with you. I've worked for very intense women, intense men, laid back and forth. It's all relative.
Why is there only one of these places?
Sarma?
Yeah, Sarma.
Oh.
I'm going to have another bite. You
Yeah,
keep
no.
talking.
People do ask if we have plans to open another, and I have the same answer every time.
What is it?
I honestly don't think I could ever recreate this situation again. It's a very specific group of people. It's a place. It's a time. It's so much work to create all these layers. I don't think I personally could ever do that again.
Where do you want it to be? Where do you want this place and your work to be in 9 more years, do you think?
9 more years.
Yeah.
I hope that Sarma is still rocking and rolling and serving our community and doing what it does best. And it just keeps like growing and evolving and changing and trying to pull new flavors and new profiles. And for me personally, I think my next move, if I were to have my way, is I live out in Winthrop, and there's a huge need for some good stuff out there. So I'd like to open something in my little
Close
community.
to home. That's great. So a lot of young kids want to do, despite how tough the restaurant business is, particularly now, want to be you or one of the other great leaders of what do you say to a 20-year-old who says, I love this business, I think I have a lot of the same feelings you described when you started? What do you tell that kid?
I think it's as good a time as any to be in this business. I really do. As long as you're ready for some hard work and, kind of pay your dues and work your way up the chain. But I think it's a great time. People are a lot more empathetic, restaurant owners, chefs, to just sort of the plight of what's going on out there. Chefs are being paid a lot more. They're getting time off. They're getting vacation time. They're getting, benefits and such, things that weren't really around back then.
Speaking of a good time, it's a good time for that. What is that thing?
Sure. This is a chocolate-covered halva bite. It's kind of our version of Three Musketeers. It's kind of creamy in the center.
Oh my God! Are you kidding me?
Crazy, right?
What's your favorite dish? Could I ask that, or is it like picking your favorite kid?
I was just gonna say they're all my children. But I will say this dish, when I first started testing it 9+ years ago, it took me 6 months to get the spices and the coating just right. So it's still kind of like this very personal bit of chicken to me.
By the way, I want to be honest with you. You think I'm sharing this with my staff? Forget about it. Cassie, you're great. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jim.
Really
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.